You cannot let your firm define you, and you have to build your own point of view as an individual. Do not be afraid of cold outreach. That is my hot take. And I don't know why people are so secretive about it, but it is really important to know. There is a very clear rhythm and schedule and calendar to this industry that you have to know to be successful. Like, if you are not aware of the calendar, you could be screwing yourself over with relationships that you're managing, customers you're trying to lock down. You need to spend time, if you work at a firm, to figure out what your thing is. I am going to be sharing my hot takes on venture capital. There's a lot of anti-signals to why VCs won't invest in you that you may not know. I think you can't be low energy and be successful. There's some people that are, and it always surprises me, like I will say, but I think the next great founders will actually not need to take a lot of capital. They will not want to take a lot of capital, and I'm already seeing this. These opinions came from years of introspection and conversations with people in the industry while I've been building my own fund. And if you've ever felt alone in questioning this industry, this episode is for you. Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. I'm your host, Erica Wenger, founding general partner of Park Rangers Capital. Each week, we uncover the stories, strategies, and moments of grit that define the builders shaping the future. They're not just chasing unicorns, but instead creating elephants, companies, firms, or movements built to last. On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. So on today's episode, I am going to be sharing my hot takes on venture capital. These are the things that a lot of people quietly know, but they do not say out loud. And I'm sharing a few of the ones in particular that have gone viral on TikTok. So if you're not on TikTok and you haven't seen them, it's your lucky day. And again, these opinions came from years of introspection and conversations with people in the industry while I've been building my own fund. And if you've ever felt alone in questioning this industry, this episode is for you. You can love it. You can be in it like I am. You can be obsessed with it like I am, but also have some things that give you pause and want to talk about it. So let's get into it. Here are some hot takes. And again, I'd just like to preface this by saying not everyone agrees with me. These are my personal hot takes that I'm sharing. Okay. You cannot let your firm define you, and you have to build your own point of view as an individual. Now, this is a hot take because a lot of funds will ask you to not share anything publicly or even privately that goes against what the firm stands for, which I completely understand. If you are excited about healthcare and the fund just does deep tech, it's a little tricky, right? You shouldn't talk about your interest in healthcare. If you are struggling with something that an LP of yours is doing publicly, you can't talk about it. You can't talk about it in private, you can't talk about it in public. So I understand this fall in line mentality, but what I've seen happen over and over and over again is friends fall into that. And then when it's their time to join another firm, start their own firm, join another company, they don't really have a leg to stand on or a point of view that is theirs. It's really adopted from the firm that they were at before, and that can be really dangerous. Maybe they did a bunch of deals and they were all really scattered. There was no through line. There was no clear, I'm just giving a random example. John Smith did X deal and Y deal and Z deal. I don't really get it. One's a Series B, one's a pre-seed, one's in healthcare, one's in fintech. Okay. And you don't really stand out, and it's a lot harder to go work for another firm. It's a lot harder to start your own. And so I think that you have to spend a lot of time crafting your own point of view and building your own distribution and really trying very hard to advocate internally to have some sort of narrative around the work that you're doing and some sort of narrative around the role that you have. You might be the fintech partner, and that's great. And all the deals you do are in fintech, and let's pray and hope that fintech does really well. You might be the person that is just knows every technical leader and is, the person that connects technical operators to the right investors and helps be their first check. That might be your thing. Again, it can be a lot of different things, but I think you need to spend time, if you work at a firm, to figure out what your thing is. So that if you want to go work elsewhere, if you want to start something, you don't just fall back on, I just was an investor at X firm and that's my brand. That doesn't work anymore. Next, do not be afraid of cold outreach. This is very much a hot take because the whole industry says they're run on warm intros, right? I think warm intros are great. They are preferred, 100%. But a lot of people like myself start as outsiders, and you cannot have a warm intro if you do not know the person, and you have to start somewhere. And I always say every cold intro can become warm, and then that warm intro then helps you with more warm intros. So do not be afraid of cold outreach. That is my hot take. Send at least one cold email every week that scares you. And, you can do what I do. I literally block it in my calendar. Time to just sort of think about who I want to meet. I have some processes in place with my EA where he's always reaching out to people cold. You can't get afraid of cold outreach, and you can't let this industry norm of only warm intros scare you. And again, like if you do enough cold outreach, you will have within 2, 3, 4, 5 years a really giant network of warm intros to now make for you because they started cold. I will also say one thing I was kind of scared of, and I'll just be vulnerable here, was I always thought that some of the people that I reached out to cold would kind of always remember that that's how we met. Like, if I reach out to someone, not in like I'm a fan of you way, but in just hey, I think we should connect, and I think that, you should consider having our fund give you money, or consider investing in our fund, or consider co-investing together, whatever the thing is. I had kind of thought in the back of my head, like, are they always going to think of me as the person that cold outreach to them? The truth is, nobody remembers. Literally nobody remembers. It's so funny. I was like with someone the other day who's now actually a very good friend, and we were talking about, how did we meet? How did we meet? I don't really remember because we met so many years ago. And I looked back and I had cold outreach to this person. And I was a fan of them at the time and was really impressed with their writing. And now we're I don't even remember. Did someone intro us? Did we do a deal together? So I'm telling you, people will not remember. Don't be afraid. Yes. And then another thing to just note, I'm speaking from personal experience, so many of our podcast guests, so many of the LPs in my fund, so many of the best deals we've done, I cold outreached. So I'm living proof that is a very valid strategy and you shouldn't be afraid of it. Okay, another hot take is that timing and industry rhythms matter. So no one talks about this, again, and this is something that I talk about a lot on social media, but there is a very clear rhythm and schedule and calendar to this industry that you have to know to be successful. And I don't know why people are so secretive about it, but it is really important to know. So a couple things. Winter and early spring are a really great extended time to host a conference, go to a conference, get customers, fundraise, whatever it might be. I would say end of January to Memorial Day. That is a really great stretch of time. The first half of the year is really focused on, getting a lot of deals done, getting a lot of work done, hitting the ground running. A lot of funds and institutional allocators want to start writing checks because they have a set amount for the year that they can do. They're often over deployed by the middle part of the year. So I think focusing on getting checks and getting customers and getting traction for that first part of the year is really important. Then the second half of the year is kind of weird and awkward. So, summertime, Memorial Day to Labor Day, very slow. Of course, you have the young people that are still hustling. You have people like myself who are running their own funds that never stop, right? But I would say in general, a lot of the bigger partners are away in Europe. They are not doing as many deals or not doing as many big deals. There's maybe some more activity at pre-seed and seed, but the later stage stuff just really dies down. And people view that time as more strategic. I'll speak for myself and say that I even recorded our last season of the podcast all in August of last year. Because I was I know that things are going to pick up like crazy after Labor Day and I just want to have them all done. So that's what you should know. And then, Burning Man Labor Day, everyone's off. And Burning Man's kind of a funny thing that we went viral on TikTok. A lot of people in tech go to Burning Man. So those 2 weeks, end of August, early September, completely shot. It's a good time to go on vacation. I myself went on like a vacation this year during that time for just a week, because that's kind of the only time during the year where things are like really slow. And then you have a really on time from like Labor Day or maybe like a week after Labor Day all the way up until Thanksgiving. This is like crazy crunch time. People are trying really hard to get the best deals they can done before the end of the year. People are trying really hard to like inflate those metrics as best they can before the holidays. But I would say Labor Day to Thanksgiving is like a really crazy time. And then Thanksgiving to New Year's, everything's completely dead. And it's more like catch-up season, end of year stuff, holiday parties, more like schmoozing with people versus like getting stuff done. So I say all this because like if you are not aware of the calendar, you could be screwing yourself over with relationships that you're managing, customers you're trying to lock down. And so it's just important to know that. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. Another thing to note in terms of timing and industry relationships is you have to know which conferences are a big deal. So this is something that's kind of in the industry. We have to kind of know when certain conferences are happening. You have to be able to either attend them or know people who attend them or just show up and go to the events around them. Some examples. So the Sun Valley Conference is attended by every major executive. If you look it up online, you'll learn more about it. You'll see photos, but it's a really big deal for some of the wealthiest, most influential people. The Upfront Summit in LA, which happens in like February and March, is a big deal for investors. Everyone goes to LA for it, even if they don't go to the conference itself. I would say a lot of junior people love to go to like all the Forbes events and, like the Fast Company stuff. They do more of like the media publication conferences. So you should just know those. You should just be like up to speed. And then of course there's the ones that are industry specific probably that you should be aware of too. And if someone mentions that conference, oh, are you going? Oh, are you aware of it? You can't say you don't know it or you're not aware of it, because the world is small. There's not too many of these conferences and you just have to know when they're happening and who's going to them. And then another kind of thing to think about in terms of timing and industry rhythms is when a founder or investor writes a book, they're everywhere. And so that's like a really good opportunity to meet people. A lot of people that are very successful sort of stay in their shell. They get hit up for a million opportunities. But when they write a book, they come out because they want to sell the book. And the whole thing is like do events where people buy the book and you sign the book and you meet people. So I would just say as best as possible, be aware of that. If you really want to meet someone, or if you really want to meet in particular a great investor, find out when they're writing a book. Find out when someone at their firm is writing a book. I'm telling you, everyone writes a book these days. And try to time your outreach with an in-person event and try to get that FaceTime. Okay, another hot take is that New York is actually a great place to build a startup. People freak out when I say this. They think the Bay is the only place to be. Actually, New York is really a booming scene. Now, again, I'm a little biased. I'm obviously based in New York. I go to the Bay quite frequently, and so I'm aware of all the scenes. I'm chronically online. You can build a great startup in New York, and there's a lot of really exciting ones that are being built here. There's a lot of really exciting funds, Thrive, USV, they're all here in New York. And even the great Silicon Valley funds are hiring a partner or two here in New York or an associate or two. So don't be afraid to leave New York. A couple other, bonus points for New York. Silicon Valley is number one for tech. Everyone knows that. New York is number two. Everyone knows that. But New York is number 1, 2, or 3 for every other industry. Fashion, politics, philanthropy, art, like you name it. New York is like on a global scale, a top place to be for every single industry. Silicon Valley is really just tech. And so if you want to position yourself to invest in really unique and thoughtful businesses that are maybe pushing the boundaries in other sectors, New York is where you should be. That's where all the top, buyers are going to be, where a lot of the executives are going to be in an area that you're interested in. A lot of the influencers that are in whatever, industry, whether they're political influencers or fashion influencers, like they go to New York. They spend time in New York because this is a hub for top folks across sectors. I also think that Silicon Valley, for better or for worse, is very much a bubble. So it can be so fun when you're in it. And trust me, like there's nothing more fun than spending like a week going to like the demo days and the accelerators and meeting founders. And there's a great pulse to the city of, SF in the Bay Area. But in New York, I think it's a lot easier to be contrarian because you aren't in that bubble and you can think for yourself and you can have time to sort of like drift and think and wander and speak to people with different points of view versus all, getting into the same few hypey deals. So that's something to think about. Another point for New York is if you plan to be in the world of finance in any capacity, obviously, if you're raising money, if you run a fund, if you do anything in the hedge fund world, whatever it might be, like New York is the center for finance and it's where wealthy people spend a lot of their time. And a lot of times if you want to build a big company, if you want to build a fund, a lot of these things require capital and it requires really deep, thoughtful relationships with wealthy individuals or family offices or foundations. They're all in New York. They really are all in New York. And if they don't live in New York, they come to New York quarterly or twice a year. So again, something to think about. If the job that you are doing requires capital, and I'm broadly saying anything related to finance, but it's really even if you're a founder and you're raising, it's very helpful to be around and build the relationships with wealthy individuals that are in New York. Okay, 2 more hot takes. There's a lot of anti-signals to why VCs won't invest in you that you may not know. My hot takes are that these are ridiculous. I understand why they exist, but when you hear them, you'll laugh. And this is actually a friend of mine aggregated a lot of these anti-signals, which I'll share with you now. I'd love to know what you think. Again, I think there's exceptions to all of these, so I think it's kind of insane, but these are just what you should know you're getting yourself into. There's a lot of anti-signals around getting an MBA. I could go on and on about to get an MBA or not to get an A in this industry. A lot of people think that if you are going to learn how to do business, then you're not a true entrepreneur. Like you should have been building things for like a long time and you should be building impressive stuff and the network should come. You shouldn't have to go buy the network. There's this like obsession with sort of like the young, gritty builder that's been coding since they were 13 or 10, quite frankly, in our industry. So the MBA is more of a polished, it's like the people that do consulting or investment banking. It comes across as more polished and maybe not as desirable. I personally will say some of the most amazing and smartest people I know have been their MBAs and have been very successful in venture and starting companies. So I don't agree with this, but that is just what you're going up against. Co-CEO titles. So this is kind of a funny one. When you're starting a company, you can really decide for yourself what all the titles are. People that say that they're co-CEOs, that's a big red flag. I actually don't hate this one. It would not be a write-off for me completely, but I think it's because you can't decide roles. That's sort of what it comes across as. Who's the COO, who's the CTO, who's the CEO. It shouldn't be that difficult to pick. Co-CEO shows maybe there's like a bit of an ego clash. So something to just be mindful of. I think that you can make anything work. It's all about the story, right? But something to just note. Now, another anti-signal is there are certain companies where if you worked for, VCs do not look positively on that. Apple is one of them. Google's another. These are companies where you've had a lot handed to you. Apple in particular, you work in silos a lot. And so you're not as cross-collaborative. And so there's just this narrative that like you're just not going to be as great of a founder. Again, I don't subscribe to this, but these are some of the anti-signals that exist. Low energy, that's a big one. I actually agree with that. I think you can't be low energy and be successful. There's some people that are, and it always surprises me. Like I will say, there are some people I've met where they're either like really famous online or they sold big companies, and I meet them and I've never met someone more low energy. There's like 2 people in particular I'm thinking of, both founders. They've been successful. So like you can do it, but it is definitely an anti-signal. Okay, appearing on crowdfunding platforms is another one. So this is kind of a sad one. I do think this needs to change because I do think there's a lot of really great companies that raise from their customers and they're viewed, and they're venture backed and they're crushing it. Their ARR is crazy, and they're viewed the same as someone that just like launched a Kickstarter for their like local honey company. They're very different. So I actually think we need to figure out better language for this sort of like customer investment platform versus community crowdfunding platform. Like I think they have different connotations, unfortunately, but it's definitely not a strong signal if you raised capital from crowdfunding versus VCs. I will say, I believe, especially like later on, like Series A or Series B, I've seen a lot of companies leave a slice of their cap table open for their customers. So, like Replit did this, Clay did this, Beehive did this, Mercury did this. They raise, let's say, 5% or 10% of the total capital in their A or their B or their C they save for their customers. I think that's awesome. And I think that's extremely positive signal. But again, everyone has their own point of view on that. Uncapped notes, another anti-signal, right? People don't want to invest in something they don't know the price of. And then building it for too long and traction isn't strong. This is an anti-signal I don't agree with because, again, using Clay as an example, they're a portfolio company of ours. It took them about 6 or 7 years to really take off, maybe 5 or 6. So again, these are things that you should know you're going up against. If you've been building your business for 3-4 years and you don't have strong traction, it might be hard. And so be really mindful of that and tell a better story about that progress. But again, those are some anti-signals. Some I agree with, some I don't. Quo, formerly OpenPhone, is built to help small business owners and growing teams stay on top of every customer conversation. Instead of juggling calls, texts, and voicemails on a personal phone, Quo gives you a dedicated business line and an all-in-one inbox that works on any device. Teams can collaborate in real time, picking up conversations seamlessly and responding faster than ever. And with Quo's AI agent, Sona, handling after-hour calls, answering questions, and even booking appointments, you'll never miss a lead. Rated 4.7 stars on G2 and trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, Quo, formerly OpenPhone, is the smarter way to grow without missing a customer. Quo is offering my listeners 20% off of your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is affordable and designed for teams like ours. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/trailblazers. Alrighty, and then the last hot take is that the founder archetype that we need to be investing in is completely evolving. So the traditional venture point of view is that the technical founder is the best founder. Coming from one of these FANG companies, Google a little less so, but being like specifically like an engineer from one of those places, golden. Building in stealth, right? Like coding at night with all your friends, in a dark apartment, building some really cool product. Sort of that, it's very like Mark Zuckerberg, but like that profile of founder was really hot and really exciting from like 2013 to 2023. There are many investors that are still backing that. I would say the funds that are the easiest to raise will still lean into that technical founder. My argument's a little different. My hot take is that actually, because software has become so commoditized, it's easier than ever to start companies. And so actually who we back and who will be the next great founders actually looks very, very different. So hear me out. Here's a few things I wrote down. So you don't need to be as technical. I can't tell you how many no-code platforms I've played with and built on as someone who didn't get a computer science degree. I took AP computer science in high school, but like my coding knowledge is quite limited and I can use a lot of the tooling. It's getting better. It's not amazing, but it's getting better and it'll only get better with time. So I actually think you don't need to be as technical, and actually being someone who's a little bit more go-to-market oriented, more of a storyteller, will be the winners. The There's definitely this like younger and younger founder archetype because they have access to this technology, this no-code tooling. They don't need to go get some big degree at a university. They can start at any time. So I think we're going to actually start to see some really exciting younger businesses from younger founders, building from any geography. So, again, it's increasing service area for luck is important. Being in SF, being in New York, of course, but I think we're actually going to see some really exciting businesses being started all over the country. You can be solo. So there was this myth for a very long time that you needed sort of the like operational visionary leader, and then you needed the like really technical in the weeds leader. And those were your ideal co-founders. I think now more and more we're going to see solo founders really crush it because you can have all that in one person. And they can use various AI platforms to make up for their weaknesses. Smaller teams is another really big trend. I would say VCs mostly agree with me on this, but it's different than what's been. You can use, again, a lot of AI tooling and agents to do the job of many people as a team of 1, 2, 3. I always say like marketing is like the best example for this, right? Like you used to need so many different people to run your social media and to do all your email campaigns and to do all your paid ads. And to, evaluate the analytics of all these things. Now, like, you actually don't need that. It's so much faster to write content. It's so much faster to analyze data and have key takeaways, right? So you don't actually need maybe a team of 10. You need a team of 2. And then in general, you need less capital overall. So this is sort of my ultimate hot take because the venture industry is really dependent on people needing capital, right? Otherwise, they're out of a job. But I think the next great founders will actually not need to take a lot of capital. They will not want to take a lot of capital. And I'm already seeing this. They often want to partner at the pre-seed and the seed, pay initial salaries, pay for tech stack, pay for upfront costs, of course. But then they don't always need giant rounds and they don't always want giant rounds of capital to grow. And so this is sort of like the ultimate hot take. Where does venture go from here? I'm very bullish on early stage because, again, I think the greatest founders will always want those partners that are well-connected, have access to lots of capital if they want it. But doing these giant growth rounds as time goes on, who knows? Who knows how things change? And I think that it speaks a lot to the future of venture funds and what funds will actually be successful. If you have great founders that don't want your money, then you're basically getting B-plus quality founders instead of A-plus quality founders that you're giving checks to, and that has ripple effects on returns. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. I'm going to reserve some of my opinions for myself. So if you meet me in person, I can share a little more. But there's a lot of things about venture that I question. I think any good investor should question everything. I love it. I'm so happy to be in it. I'm very bullish on the future of our thesis and early stage. But there's certainly a lot of things that are evolving, and there are certainly a lot of hot takes that people talk about behind closed doors and they don't share, like I'm sharing with you now. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have any other hot takes or you disagree with my hot takes, reach out, let me know. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys. On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute. From closing 6-figure checks to identifying new LPs we should meet to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.